Like to open the February 4th, 2025 Select Board meeting at 6:31. This is an in-person meeting, 138 Main Street, Wenham, Mass., first floor. As a convenience to the public, it is available electronically via the Zoom link below.
Mr. Chairman, we can't hear you.
We can't hear a thing.
I don't know if the microphones are on.
Hello?
They're not on.
Hello? Sorry about that, folks. Test.
Can you hear us, Steve? HWCam, do you see anything on your end? Over there?
I'm texting Mr. Melville, but it says that everything's working.
Yeah, I can hear fine from home.
Oh, can you hear us, Steve?
Yeah, sounds good from here.
So what's going on?
I think we're good now. Sounds like you can hear us.
Not in the room.
Not in the room.
The mic's, yep.
All right. Try and be loud. All right, I'd like to open the February 4th, 2025 Select Board meeting at 6:33. This is an in-person meeting at 138 Main Street, Wenham, Mass., first floor. As a convenience to the public, it is available electronically via the Zoom link below or via HWCam for viewing and participation. In the event of a technology failure, the meeting will continue in person. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom. It is also recorded for playback video on demand viewing at hwcam.org. Please note that other than call to order, all times are estimates. Items may be taken out of order. So I just want to say I'm going to ask for public input, but I think if you're going to here to talk about 3A, why don't we have public comment when we start talking about 3A? Guys all right with that? Yeah. Public input, purpose for public comment on matters falling within the jurisdiction of the Select Board and not on the current agenda. Note, public comment on specific agenda items with a public comment period will be deferred until those items are reached, like 3A. Rules, 2 minutes per person.
From upstairs or something?
A person may speak once, 10 minutes total. All participants wishing to address the Select Board during public comments may do so in person or via Zoom by virtually raising their hand. Speakers must identify themselves by name and street address. The Select Board may not deliberate or vote on matters discussed during public comment, but are not on the agenda. Okay, reports and announcements. Let's start with the Town Administrator's update and town announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just wanted to report that today the town hall phones have been down, but Verizon is working on this. They'll be working on it throughout the night, and they think that we will have the phones working again first thing in the morning. So Verizon is on it, and we're hoping to get this resolved as soon as possible by the morning. Another news, I wanted to report that we still have 2 vacancies we're trying to fill at Town Hall. The first one is the Council on Aging Administrative Assistant position. This is a non-benefited part-time position up to 19 hours per week. We also are looking to fill an assessor's admin assistant as well. This is a union position, again, up to 19 hours per week. We've been sharing it on social media, but please tell a friend. We're looking to get that filled as soon as possible to help Jim Reynolds and Terry as well, Terry Fontaine, our new assessor. There will be a training being done in March by one of our attorneys at KP Law, one of town council attorneys. This is for acquisition and disposition of land, leases, easements, and restrictions. This will be hosted by Sharon Everett, attorney Sharon Everett at KP Law. This is on Wednesday, March 5th at 6 p.m. and it will be on Zoom. And all staff members in town are invited, as well as board and committee members. We think it'll be helpful training. This will be done again on March 5th, Wednesday, 6 p.m. on Zoom. Excise tax bills went out. They were mailed out on January 30th to all residents with a car registered with the RMV as of January 1st, 2025. These bills are due on March 3rd, 2025. And you can contact the collector's office at 978-468-5520, extension 3, with any questions. Bills can also be paid on our town website, on the main page of the website, and also on the collector/treasurer's page as well. Nomination papers are available in the town clerk's office for any and all of the 14. Sorry.
You want to move the podium up? So you're not like. There you go. Just didn't want to get squished.
Okay, so yes, the nomination papers are available at the town clerk's office for all of the 14 open seats currently that are up for election. Papers will be due by February 20th with at least 20 signatures to get your name on the ballot. The open seats are on the Board of Assessors, Board of Health, the Regional School Committee, Planning Board, Water Commission, Library Board of Trustees, Housing Authority, and Select Board. Town staff will be getting out the Wenham wire for the month of January soon. Everyone did a great job again getting in all the information from each department. So we're looking forward to putting that out. This will be the second edition of the Wenham wire. Also wanted to mention the CPC met last week to vote on funding certain eligible projects. Just a couple highlights. The CPC voted to fund the HVAC project at Town Hall for $390,000. This will have to be confirmed at town meeting, but Kate Mallory did a great job. This is an application submitted on behalf of the Land Use Department, so that was great news. Unfortunately, the project for digitizing Town Hall records was not approved at this time, but we are happy that the HVAC project was funded $390,000 anyways, so that was great news. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I would just observe that Rich Souza and the DPW done a pretty good job of getting the sidewalks cleared fast. And that's all I have.
Okay, I have one announcement that I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of, and unfortunately it's happening concurrently with our meeting tonight. But the Ipswich River Watershed Association, together with Senator Bruce Tarr and Representative Kristen Kastner, are hosting a forum this evening at the Community House, and it is entitled Shaping Our Water Future, Task Force Updates and Insights. And I think it's good for everyone to be aware that this process of the North Shore Water Resiliency Task Force is moving forward. They recently transitioned from research mode to execution mode. They are talking tonight about how the task force is moving towards actionable progress in securing the region's water future. And Hamilton and Wenham's role in regional water solutions will also be discussed. I'm hoping that a recording will be available, but I think it's important for everyone to know that that group is actually making progress on trying to solve our water problems.
Thank you. I wanted to publicly acknowledge that February is Black History Month, and to give proper attribution to a company that posted a description of Black History Month, a company called Anderson and Krieger. I thought I would read this short description. February marks Black History Month, a time to honor the profound contributions of Black individuals throughout history. We recognize the achievements and resilience of the Black community, acknowledging the challenges they have faced and overcome. Let us commit to fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion in our workplaces and beyond, not just this month, but throughout the year. That's it.
Thanks, Ben. I have two quick notes. On on February 13th, Cutler School is having a Valentine's Day concert. All are welcome. Seniors are welcome to enjoy the front row, so they just have to show up. Starts at 9 a.m. And all those seniors in the community that are feeling that they need a little bit of cheer for Valentine's Day can reach out to me by Monday. All of our elementary school art teachers are putting together cards for the community. So anyone that is looking for a little bit of happiness from the students, let me know, and we'll be happy to mail you a card.
I'm good. All right. So we move on to the consent agenda. Routine items for approval in a single motion, allowing them to be passed without discussion unless held. A, minutes for 12/3/2024 and 12/17/2024. Appointment to the Council on Aging, Mary Sheehan, for a term starting February 4th, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. And a one-day liquor license for the First Church in Wenham, Saturday, February 15th, 2025, from 12 to 4.
Just
one motion?
Just one correction, Mr. Chair, that it's only the 12/3 minutes that are ready for approval, not the 12/17 ones, yeah.
All right.
Okay. I'd like to move to approve items A through C in the consent agenda as printed in this evening's agenda.
Second. Ready to vote? Clay says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes. So, I'm not going to read that again. What? Should? All right. New business, items for individual consideration. These items will allow for public comment, 10 minutes. Purpose, this comment period will allow for public comment on individual and will be held before or after the board's discussion of the agenda item at the discretion of the chair. Rules, 2 minutes per person. A person may speak only once. 10 minutes total per item, unless noted on the agenda item. So we move to discussion and potential vote to submit action plan form requested on letter dated January 27th, 2025, addressed to Town Administrator Poulos, Wenham, confirmation of status with General Law, Section 40A, Section 3A, from Edward M. Augustus, Jr. And this is for discussion.
I received this letter, obviously from Secretary Augustus, and just to notify us that we are not in interim compliance due to the fact that we have not submitted.
Steve, sorry, we're just trying to turn up your volume a little bit. Is that possible?
I think it's what it can.
Test. Is that better?
That's,
I'm sorry.
I don't think I can.
Okay. Yeah, Steve, if you're able to speak up a little.
All right. Is this better?
Not really.
All right.
Should we have him call, like, your cell phone?
Steve, would you like to call my cell phone? It might be easier. I can put you on speaker.
Sure.
Okay.
Hello?
Can you guys hear him better now?
Speak.
The letter you have in front of you.
Maybe, I don't know if I don't know if Margaret, if you'd be willing and prepared to,
To what?
if you'd be willing, prepared to summarize, like, kind of where we are, if that's okay with the chair, just because we're not going to be able to hear Steve.
I haven't I don't know, does the microphone work at all? They don't work?
It's for the recording.
Just for the recording? Okay, not for the public. So, from what I understand, there was a letter received. Joe, I don't know if we have a copy of that letter, or that could be shared, from Edward Augustus, who,
I think it's,
they're requiring each town who has not complied with the MBTA Communities Law to submit a new action form to bring us into compliance. And I think it's due February
13th.
13th, yep. Okay, so that's the letter from the state. Okay, so the state has said, we're going to give you until this February 13th date to come into compliance by filling out another action form. The action form is not the zoning amendment. The action form is simply a form that says, essentially, we're working on that zoning amendment. So we have to file that by February 13th. Do you have a copy of the form there, too? I know there's some language in the form that the select board and the town administrator have to agree to that,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not familiar with all of that language.
Yeah, we have it on our agendas.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then, once that's done, then we have until, I believe, July 14th
Yes.
to comply and get our zoning in place, the MBTA zoning in place by July. So once you submit that action form in February and it's accepted by the state, we'll be in compliance.
Right, so the deadline that had previously been December 31st of 2024 for
Right.
a town passing a rezoning that's compliant with 3A.
Yep.
That deadline under the emergency regulations is now July 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And question, so this action plan is the same or similar to the one that we had already supplied to the state, what, last June or so?
Yeah.
That I believe will state the date of a special town meeting
Yeah,
occur before July 14th if the board
yep, and
pursues that.
I don't have a copy of that form in front of me.
Right.
It says no later than July 14th.
Right, right.
Yes, we have to complete the district compliance, but this particular action form has its own language in it.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move on to E?
Well, I would say that before we move on to E, we need to address a date, do we?
Right, so I talked to Steve about it. I think June 7th is the best day. On the 14th, Roger has a conflict, and June 21st is probably too late. School's out.
So Saturday, June 7th is what you're proposing?
Yes.
That makes sense to me.
Have we talked to the schools, the rec department, to everybody else? That is an extremely busy day in town. And so anything from a family perspective, you're going to ensure that they won't be able to participate.
When you say it's extremely busy, what do you mean?
So once you enter the month of June, you have sports, you have different type of activities. Schools will also have activities. Families inevitably are going to be extremely busy, and you're not going to get the turnout that you are looking for.
Is May any less busy, Saturdays in May?
May would be a better option. Once you
Obviously
enter.
not Memorial Day, sorry to interrupt, not
No.
Memorial Day weekend, obviously, but, yeah.
Excuse me, if,
Well, if you look at the conflicts up there, we're screwed in May.
hi, sorry, if I could just comment. Once the town files the action form, we have to go back into the process for this new zoning amendment, and we will need as much time as we can get, I think, to make that happen. There's public hearings that have to be held by the planning board, as well as public outreach that we want to make sure we're doing. And I would just ask that we get as much time as possible to get all that work done.
All right, so Karen.
I cannot, in good graces, and looking at the schedules between all the family activities that are scheduled for the town, to vote anything into after June 1st. So I think we really need to buckle down, choose a date.
So that means we lose Steve.
Well, no, Saturday, May 24th is available. I'm not advocating for that over June 7th because I think that it's busy. I mean, my kids are older, but.
Isn't that Memorial Day weekend?
Isn't it, or is that the 20, that's the 31st, isn't it?
No, the 24th is
Oh, I
Memorial
beg
Day
your pardon.
weekend.
Okay,
So you're
so-
also going to lose everything.
So the 31st would be,
Isn't that Memorial Day?
Steve's away on the 31st, okay.
When is high school graduation?
Pardon?
When is high school graduation?
No idea.
First Saturday of June
First Saturday of June.
Yeah,
is usually when.
So that's the 7th.
that's the 7th.
The
yes.
7th. So, okay.
But
That was helpful for my argument.
I'm just looking at June, May
Looks like-
31st, isn't that Memorial Day weekend?
No, Memorial Day weekend is the 24th through the 26th.
But Steve's not available on the 31st.
Looks like June 7th is not possible for the town clerk, Mr. Chairman, just so you know. There's a conflict.
Yep. What,
Thank
which?
June 7th is in conflict with the town clerk.
And being the last day of school is the next week, there's not an option.
I'm sorry, I don't see Diane having a conflict.
I missed it.
Under June.
I missed writing it down, but it might be high school graduation.
Yes, it is.
It is? June 7th, I think, is high school graduation. First Saturday of June.
Can you hear me?
The 24th through the
Yes,
26th.
Steve.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Memorial Day.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My 31st is, I believe it's MMA conference, so I'm happy to just not go and do the special town meeting if that makes it easier.
It would.
The calendar, the district calendar has the high school graduation May 31st.
Does it?
So back to June 7th. Although Diane's,
Nothing on the 7th.
Yeah.
that's early for high school graduation.
So I think we are back to June 7th. Is Diane, hey,
So-
David, is Diane out there?
Diane.
May 17th is not on anyone's calendar as far as it being an option or it being a conflict.
No, I think the issue is whether that's sufficient time for the planning board to get everything done.
Well, they're listing May 5th as options on here, or potential conflicts. It can't be the weekend of the 10th or the 11th. That is Mother's Day. We're not going to talk about that, so.
So I think we could also consider an evening during the week, like a Monday evening. That's when Hamilton actually does their special town meetings. It seems to work. That would avoid some of these weekend conflicts and the Saturday sports and all of those things. So I'm going to just throw that out there.
What do you guys think?
Well, certainly, we're looking at just a one or short warrant list, so perhaps an evening one would work.
So which day are you suggesting?
Margaret?
I would suggest the latest one out. If June 7th works, that would be more appropriate for us. We do have to have, we have procedural guidelines that we follow with notices and, they're weeks at a time.
Yeah, I'll second Margaret. I know that, I think June may be tough, but there's kind of a lot to get done between now and then with public hearings and public forums, and I'm only imagining that, the boards will, want as many public forums as possible, so it's not just the hearings
Yeah.
they'll have to abide by in the posting requirements, it'll be the public forums as well.
So Steve, do you have a suggestion, like a Monday in June?
I'm just pulling up June here quick.
Yeah, if,
Yeah, but generally they all work
yeah.
for me. The only one is the 30th. Wouldn't work for me, but any other Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday for that matter. I mean, I'm not sure. We didn't talk to, when we spoke to the Bucher School, they said generally the weekends are free. We don't know about weekdays. However, if we, we have some flexibility. I think if we set a date or even the week in which we want the weekday to fall, that would give us enough information to submit the action plan, and the select board, we can touch base with the Bucher School and see what day of that week is available.
Okay, so we're talking about the week of the 9th of June.
Okay. We'll do that, week of the 9th. Why don't we pick the 9th? And then if we have to revisit it, we will. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
I can't support that, but you guys, that's, once you have high school graduation and people start to leave town, you're having it on a Monday after high school graduation. That is the last week of school.
I mean, there is no good time in May and June. That's the reality. Everybody's busy, but everybody's busy all the time. But we need to have a date. So I think we have to pick the best of the worst options.
So high school graduation, remind me, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the seniors, right?
Once you enter June, it is a massive calendar conflict. And so in my thought process is it has to be completed in May. And looking at the calendar, Steve is at the conference on the 27th, which is Memorial Day weekend. There's no reason on the calendar it couldn't be done on May 22nd, which is the Thursday, or May 21st, which is a Wednesday.
Karen, but I think we're also hearing from our planning board representative. Dave, I don't know if you want to weigh in, but they need sufficient time to get all of these meetings done and all of the legwork to be ready.
I just don't think 1 week is a difference. To get the amount of people in that room that is really giving them the option of weighing in on such a drastic decision is truly immeasurable. You need to have the good representative of the town there. And to be able to do that, once you pass high school graduation time, people leave.
Margaret, can you handle something the week of May 27th? Or the 26th? Obviously, it's not the 26th because that's Memorial Day.
It would be, it's, we can handle what we have to handle. I just want to make sure that we have all of the, we can get as much public output as possible in that time. But yeah, whatever you guys decide, we'll have to make that work.
So we're looking at maybe Thursday, the 29th, is that the right date?
Of May?
Of May. Because Monday's Memorial Day. So, after Memorial Day, before graduation.
I mean, I think, then certainly the families who do have graduating seniors aren't going to come because they'll be planning their parties. I mean, I don't see that the week of June, I don't think the June 7th or the week of June 9th is any more busy than the end of May, in my experience. And people are either going to be motivated to attend the special town meeting or they're not. And people make it work. If they can make it work, great. So I'd support either the 7th or the 9th myself.
Yep, and I'm going to support the 9th, and give our planning board as much time as we can to do what they need to do.
June 9th, the week of June 9th.
So my suggestion, so that we can move on with this meeting, is to go with the 9th tentatively, and Steve to talk to Bucher about both of the weeks that we're talking about, so that we know what our options are, and we can refine this and give the planning board a chance to lay out their schedule.
Yep, I like that. Yeah, go with the 9th, and we'll catch up with Bucher tomorrow.
Oh, so do we have to move this tonight? Should we let Steve go figure it out?
I mean, this has to be, I believe.
Well, I would like to have a date.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to have a date so we can move forward with the action plan, because the action plan has to be submitted by February 14th. if my memory serves me right. And,
13.
so that would give us, at least knowing the week, we can go ahead and fill in all the dates, because basically you pick the date of the meeting, the town meeting, and you work backwards. So we have to see, Margaret will tell me how many public hearings we have to have. What are the advertising requirements before we can hold the public hearings? So you kind of work back from that. Like some of them have 10-day advertising requirements. We got to get it in the Salem News. We got to figure out how many public forums we want to host, whether those are before or after the public hearing. So it's just once we have that date, we can fill out the rest of the action form. It's really just, it's really not, the action form isn't that complicated. It's really just a list of dates and basically, promising that you're going to do your best to meet these dates that's been laid out and bring it to a town meeting vote on the date or around about the date that you said you were going to.
So can we just say it's the date of June 9th at 7 p.m.?
Yes, that would be fine. And if we have to change it, we'll bring it back. But if not, then we won't.
No, the 7th is a Saturday, right?
Yeah, we said the
So-
9th, the Monday.
9th.
Going with the 9th, okay.
It's a Monday. All right, so why don't we just put it in for 6:30 for now? So do we have a motion?
I think we're going to do the motion after E, Mr. Chairman. We're still on D, but.
So E has a pretty long motion. You could maybe split it up into two and set the date and then do the rest of it if you want to do it that way. Have two votes, but that's up to you.
So I'll move to select a special town meeting date of Monday, June 9th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to be held at Bucher School pending availability and confirmation, and to ensure compliance with the emergency regulations 760 CMR 72. Let me amend it because we are going to break it up. I think that second part is a separate item that you might take public discussion on or board discussion. So let me withdraw that motion and simply make a motion to select a special town meeting date of Monday, June 9th at 6:30 p.m. to be held at Bucher School pending availability and confirmation, period.
Second?
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes.
And yes.
Karen, no.
Gary, yes.
You break this into the second part of the motion?
Yeah, I think it's item E.
So go to E.
Item E.
Discussion and potential vote to select a special town meeting date and to instruct the town administrator to submit a new action plan to the state to come into interim compliance with general law 40A, section 3A.
You want to do board comment and then public comment, or the other way around? Or?
Why don't we do public comment and then board comment, please? All right, folks. If you want to say something, you need to get up. Please go to the microphone, even though it doesn't work.
Well, it does,
I think
That one doesn't.
it works for the
Your
recording.
name and street address, please.
Salvatore Celeste, and I'm at 20 Puritan Road.
Right.
I just want to say that in light of the contentious nature of this 3A,
I just want to quickly remind you, 2 minutes.
yeah, I got that, and that's what I'm about to say.
Okay.
In light of the contentious nature of what's happening here and the number of people that came here, allowing only 10 minutes and allowing only 5 people to speak is not only divisive, we know it's designed to stifle dissenting opinions, and it sucks. Further, there is nothing in 3A, nothing, that will benefit any taxpayer in this room who lives in this town today. And I urge you not to facilitate anything that will allow them to comply or allow them to forward 3A in any way. And under no circumstances, change the zoning laws. Don't do it. It's our only safety that we have. It's so important that the zoning stays this way, because as soon as affordable housing comes in, that's the Trojan horse. And there's no way to stop it. Once that cat's out of the bag, it's all over but the crying. I've seen it happen in many towns. You live here because of the bucolic nature of this town, it'll disappear. It's the gateway to becoming the city of Wenham. Watch it, you'll see it. It's gonna happen here.
Salvatore?
And you need to represent us.
Salvatore, we're going to spend more than 10 minutes.
You told me it was 10 minutes, 2 minutes per person.
So I'll do 2 minutes
That's 5
per
people.
person, but we'll go
And
more
I
than
think
10
there's more than
minutes.
5 people that have something to say about it.
We're going to attempt to give everyone an opportunity to speak. I'm going to request decorum. I'm going to remind you to please speak into the microphone so that people on Zoom and on the recording can hear what you have to say. Okay?
Anyone else?
I think this might be working now, is it?
Yeah.
Sounds better.
Yeah, it does. Mr. Speaker, I've been here a couple times.
Name?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. And I do that every single time. And I go over my 2 minutes, too. Edward Flynn, 2 Sias Lane. And I've spoken about the number of kids coming in, the adverse nature of the high-rise 4-story buildings and all the things, and I've shown pictures, and everybody's seen all that. I guess it troubles me a little bit, and I mentioned this last time I was here, that you put off the vote from the fall when it was supposed to be voted on. And I think you did it because you knew you were going to lose. And I say you because I think you're mostly in favor of this. I also think you're very concerned about schools because you're counting on, as you mentioned, having the people from the schools come. I think you probably think that that is going to help your cause. And I don't like the political part of that. You know, this is supposed to be something that is a straightforward issue. We come, we vote. The whole town has put up their little yellow signs, and we're one of them. I'm one of the pitchfork people. I've been accused of that. And we just want to be able to vote on this. And I don't understand why we're not doing a special town meeting, and I understand Margaret has some reasons now, but we should have voted for it then, and I think you didn't want us to vote for it then, because the schools have huge issues on coming up about a mega school. And I think most of the yellow sign pitchfork people would vote against it. So you kept us away from that. You wanted to do it July 4th weekend, is what you said, July 7th, which is the Monday following the July 4th weekend. Can we just have this vote as soon as possible? And I understand Margaret has things that she has to do, but can we have it as soon as possible? Having it on a Monday night for a town that is so used to doing everything on Saturdays for hundreds of years seems a little fishy too, but I understand. So that's really all I have to say. I didn't know about this meeting until about 45 minutes before I came, so I didn't prepare anything. But, you know, if we could just get it done, have the vote, we're going to vote it down. So, anyway.
Just to clarify, we did just agree to hold a special town meeting in June. It is not July, it's in June. June 9th is the proposed date, tentatively, at least for the moment.
Anyone else?
Marjorie Gajeski, 7 Perkins Street, Wenham. I just want to make sure that I emailed all of you a letter, that you got the email, and I actually copied it and put it in an envelope to be delivered to you, and I'm hoping that you all have read it. I said thank you for reading at the end of it, hoping you did. And there are 10 points that have to be considered. And I just hope that you will pay attention to that part of it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marjorie,
I hope you read it.
Yeah, we all got the letter. Unfortunately, some of us don't check the mailboxes as regularly, so the.
Well, then it was emailed by me, and I don't know who else also.
Yeah, so we got it late last night, so it was a lot of points to be able to.
Okay, but before you do.
Just know to receive mail in our actual mailboxes, we're not checking them.
I know, and everything's happening so quickly, but please consider everything on it before you move on to anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone on Zoom, Michelle? You want to just double check one more time, please? Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Angus West, 7 Walnut Road in Wenham, lifetime resident. I want to first thank the committee for last fall postponing the decision. I'm glad we didn't have the vote. I wanted to hear what the Supreme Judicial Court said, and I appreciate you having deferred this because that was very important information for me deciding whether or not I want to vote for this. I am personally opposed to what 3A will do to the town vehemently, but I also do honor the law and also recognize the threat that's now hanging over our heads with the new decision. So I have two questions I hope you'll be able to comment on when you put this to the town as a select board. The first one is evidently one of the flaws the SJC said in the Milton decision was that there was no financial analysis done in the narrow area that I gather the 3A statute said, which was small business impact, and somehow they were able to come up in a matter of 48 hours with a remedied set of regulations that had done that financial analysis. My first question, therefore, is can Wenham have some sort of back-of-the-envelope financial analysis of what the costs of this 5 and 10 years down the road would be to us if the town approves it? Second, this is all stick and not carrot. I am very worried about the vote that I'm going to be asked 2 months before on this major $142 million school project, of which $90 million is going to be the equity and $50 million is debt. Once we vote for that in April, will they be able to take our $50 million bond for the new school and hold that over our head if we don't apply 3A? Will you have an answer for that from town council by the time we're asked to vote? So financial analysis of its impact and what the threat the state hangs over our head. That'll make a big difference for my vote. I'm on the fence right now after the SJC, but I do thank you for having given us the chance to get some more information.
Thank you, Angus.
Could I comment on at least one of those? Thank you, Mr. West, and appreciate your comment about the postponement, because as you said, that was the primary reason why we held off, knowing that the SJC was going to make a decision on the legality of the guidelines. I think that the request that Mr. West has made a few times here about fiscal impact is a reasonable one. I'm not in that particular line of work. My sense is that there are many variables that would make a precise fiscal impact difficult. You mentioned back of the envelope, and I think that's fair because this is a rezoning amendment that would be put forward, and therefore will be very difficult to predict whether actual development at either of the two parcels that the planning board previously designated will reach the as-of-right numbers that the rezoning would allow if it's passed. So for example, Boulder Lane, which the town owns most of, and therefore as the owner, we have control over what would be developed on Boulder Lane, unlike a privately owned parcel where we'd have less control. So it's really hard to say, for example, on Boulder Lane, if that ended up being rezoned under a 3A amendment, what would be developed there. It's a notoriously difficult site to develop, the town has learned over decades. So would it be like a second Parsons Hill, maybe? Would it be 2 families instead of 1 single families there? Maybe. Would that be a catastrophe for the town? I don't think so, but it's hard to know what would be developed. And therefore, I think, again, the precision of a fiscal impact review would be difficult. But I do think that we should consider tasking an appropriate professional, either internally or maybe externally, to see whether there can be the type of back of the envelope set of projections, ranges, what have you, scenarios that that could be part of a presentation at town meeting. So I do support that concept. I'm not sure that there's anything we need to do about that now, but I did want to state that I think there's merit to the suggestion.
Well, I guess that would go back to Margaret and the planning board.
I'm sorry, what's the question? What's the question? I am paying attention.
As far as a potential
A fiscal analysis?
general fiscal analysis, scenarios.
I'm sure that we could run, based on the type of zoning that we're proposing and the possibility of what could be developed on the particular sites, we probably could come up with a, I don't know whether you call it best or worst case scenario, the maximum amount of units possibly that could be built. We did something similar in the master plan with fiscal analysis on different types of development and what that would mean. So we do know what different multifamily development means versus single-family development versus commercial versus mixed use. So we have some numbers like that already in our master plan that we could, look at. I think it would be up to your board to decide whether you wanted to expend funds to have an outside consultant do some other type of fiscal analysis on what we're proposing for
Can you do us a favor
zoning.
and just ballpark? Not right here.
I was going to say right now.
Ballpark
Right
what
now,
that might cost?
$50,000. Everything costs $50,000. No, I'm joking. Sure, I can look
on the
into it.
spot,
Yep.
That would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, I'll look into it with some consultants that we've dealt with in the past who may be able to give us some kind of a figure for what it would cost to have such an analysis completed.
That's great, and then maybe, if you keep the chairman and the town administrator updated, it may be appropriate to have that as an agenda item on, a future select board meeting. I don't think that issue should hold up the votes that we're going to take tonight, but it's something that maybe would become part of a town meeting presentation, special town meeting presentation.
Angus, does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Chair, can I just make one point? These studies have already been done. Milton did a very, very in-depth study about how much all these units were going to cost based upon 3A. So you directed me to that, Mr. Chair, and I read the whole report, and then Margaret directed me to one that this town did with Cambridge Econometrics. So we already have 2 studies. I gave you all the information based on those studies, if you apparently didn't read it or if you don't care.
No, I did read it.
Did you read the Milton study?
Yes, yeah. What I'm talking about is something that is more bespoke to the lots that are being contemplated in Wenham. So those other studies you mentioned are of limited utility to that analysis.
Mr. Chair, I do appreciate the fact you're letting me talk twice, but I just want to bring something up. I don't think you have any...
Sir, can you come up to the podium, please, if you'd like to speak? Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Thank you for letting me speak again. I do appreciate it. But now we're in a subject that I did a lot of work on. And if you look at the studies that Milton did, and you look at the number of students that we would have per unit, it's a lot. I mean, a lot. And it's very, very expensive. And I guess I'm wondering, why are we now talking about how much it's going to cost? When I read 3A, I don't see anything in there about we're allowed to put in 1- and 2-family houses. This is, the state's taking over the land, isn't it?
No.
The state's not taking over that. And Mr. Flynn, what I remember from at least a large portion of the analysis that you passed out was the following fundamental flaw, which was that you used per pupil cost as the multiplier for each student. And that's an incorrect way to think about it. And as my colleague, Mr. Cheeseman,
I agree with that.
Let me finish.
And I agreed at the time.
Let me finish. As Mr. Cheeseman said before, the capital costs, the cost of the superintendent, and so on, those are there regardless. So it's the incremental student costs, and I think the number of pupils that are predicted typically are overstated in some of those.
I agree with you, and I do, and because there are some economies of scale there. The Milton study actually addresses that. I think they say it costs $18 per student, but because of the economies of scale, it's a fixed cost business schools. So every time you add somebody, the scholarship principle, if you add a person, they're free. I mean, that's kind of how schools work. But if you add this many people, they're not free. So it went from $18 in the Milton study to costing $14 because of the economies. It's still a lot of kids, and it's still a lot of money. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know what control. I've read the 3A thing many times and had conversations with a lot of people, and I'm not understanding what you seem to think that we as a town, or you as selectmen, have a lot of, or Margaret as the planning person, has a lot of control over what these people, these developers can build. I don't see it. I think the 3A, I think that the state's very serious about this, and I think they're going to try to maximize the number of units.
Well, when you it's probably not appropriate to get into it.
That's fine, and I appreciate the fact you let me come up and talk again. But when I read it, I don't see that we have 1 and 2 family houses. I mean, really?
Well, the reason I mention that as an example is because it depends on what the developer wants to do.
Maximize income.
Well, right, but it may be that on Boulder Lane, based on the developable land and based on the town's input, it may be that the development there is.
Well, I think on Boulder Lane, they're just going to tie into the Beverly water system. So I don't think there's going to be.
It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. Okay. We're done.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Margaret?
Yes?
I still want you to look at how much it would cost to get some kind of financial analysis.
Certainly.
Because I think it has to be bespoke, to your point.
Okay.
Okay, so
we have the other half of that motion.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead with that? All right. So I move that to ensure compliance with Massachusetts Emergency Regulations 760 CMR 72, that the town of Wenham submit an action plan no later than February 13th, 2025. That's the motion. I think the rest of it should be separate.
So we're bringing this into 3?
I think, or at least one more, because I think we need to just
Okay,
button up.
do we have somebody who seconds?
Second.
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right, and then I will move to authorize the town administrator to sign Section 1 of the action plan affirming, quote, "It is the full intention of the town administrator to take necessary actions to bring any zoning intended to comply with all requirements of Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 3A, and 760 CMR 72, to a vote of the Town of Wenham Town Meeting in the time frame described in the action plan to be submitted, and to submit a district compliance application to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities no later than July 14th, 2025. Additionally, I move that the Select Board certify, quote, "that it is the full intention of the Select Board of the Town of Wenham to take necessary actions to bring any zoning intended to comply with all requirements of Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 3A, and 760 CMR 72, to a vote of the Town of Wenham Town Meeting in the time frame described in the action plan to be submitted, and to submit a district compliance application to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities no later than July 14th, 2025. Finally, I move to further authorize the town administrator to draft a statement reflecting this commitment on behalf of the Select Board and submit it to the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Second.
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, on 3A. obviously, it's a big deal. Okay, discussion on planning board's recommendation regarding the acceptance of the ways located in the Spring Hill subdivision.
It's my understanding that the planning board has no recommendation at this time. And Margaret, I don't know if you have any more color to add on that, but I believe that the folks up at Spring Hill are going to organize in their housing authority and would be looking to ask the board to consider keeping a placeholder in the warrant reflecting a street acceptance for the Spring Hill subdivision in the event that the Spring Hill Housing Association is able to submit the appropriate paperwork to the planning board, including engineering plans and drainage easements, so that they may recommend a street acceptance to the select board.
So I listened in, I listened into the planning board meeting last week. It was last week. And a question that I had coming out of that meeting was, what leeway does this board have to reopen the annual town meeting warrant if we choose to do so in order to put street acceptance on the warrant if the planning board's application requirements are met before April?
Gary?
I think the answer to that is the select board can open and close the warrant. The only practical restriction is that we have to go to the printers about the first week of March. But through the rest of February, expecting to close the warrant tonight, that at any given meeting, if we get changes on any of the warrant articles, we could open and close the warrant at will.
Thank you. That's helpful.
So, a couple questions. So perhaps Margaret has an update as to the status of the HOA and what they're going to take on to provide the necessary documents.
Yeah, thank you. I met today with a few members of their newly organized homeowners association, and they've told us that they intend to get an attorney and an engineer to provide the necessary documents for an application for street acceptance together as soon as possible. The planning board's meeting next Thursday. I will have this on their agenda as an item for them to consider. If the select board chooses to put this on the warrant, I believe we'll work with the homeowners association to get all of the information together to get it, have everything necessary for the town meeting. So I'm not sure how the select board wants to handle it, whether you want to put it on again as, I think, as a placeholder, and then if it doesn't come to fruition and if something happens where the information we're giving is not acceptable, then it would just be passed over at town meeting, I believe.
So we could have we would need the wording for the actual warrant article, but that is predicated on receipt of both the engineering drawings and the easements. And I understand the easements is the long pole in the tent.
I'm sorry, Gary?
The easements is the longer time frame to get completed?
Well, the developer of this subdivision had applied last year for street acceptance. They did submit as-built drawings. They also submitted some deed language, not all of the easement language. I can't tell you how long it would take an attorney to do it, but I don't think it would be too long. But it is going to take some time for them to do it. But I think the planning board is willing to work with these homeowners so that they can move this forward.
I think that from my perspective, we have to have the warrant posted by the constable. I believe it's 2 weeks before town meeting, so we'd need the wording by then.
Oh, well, that's,
So you're only looking at, what's that, 5 weeks, 6-ish weeks? I mean, is that, I guess my question is that enough time? Like, are they, what are the chances they're going to be able to pull all the paperwork together in 5 or 6, or really less than that, say 3 or 4 weeks to get it in front of the planning board to make the recommendation to have the wording drafted and ready to go 2 weeks before town meeting? Is that, how far-fetched
yeah.
is that?
Well, I think one of the representatives of the homeowners association is here. Andrew may have more information if you want to listen to what he has to say.
Yeah. So, good to be back here with you guys. And I just want to say thank you very much. I know plowing's on the agenda for
Name and
tonight
address
too.
first,
Oh,
Bill.
Andrew Goodman, 2 Angus Circle. Sorry, too informal. So thank you very much for putting plowing on the agenda, and we appreciate that too. So just to give you an update of what we've done and what's gone on since the last time we were here at your last meeting, and there was a planning board meeting last Thursday as well. So one of the things we were delighted to hear at the planning board meeting is that it appears that there might be a resolution to the affordable housing situation, which was a real sticking point between the town and the developer. And so, just to remind you, our situation, it's an unfortunate turn of events, right? We have a developer who essentially, the town was required to give the bond back. The bond went back to them. They have no incentive to bring this street for acceptance. We, as homeowners, and we have reason to believe too that because of the way the deeds are drafted, like the street is actually owned by the homeowners up to the middle of the road, right? That's not a situation that I think is good for anybody in the community. The homeowners own a private road in the town of Wenham. We'd like the street accepted. What we're asking for is a placeholder, and I'll tell you what we've been doing. So the HOA, which exists, the developers, are out as trustees because they sold the last lot. So over the weekend, we came together as a neighborhood, as an HOA. We elected trustees, and I'm honored that they chose me as one of them. And so we are selecting an attorney and hope to make that decision in the next 12 to 24 hours. We have at least 2 good options. We're engaging with Hayes Engineering. They've been working on this the whole time. And I think there's an easement issue with one of our neighbors, but it's not an issue as in contentious. It's just a matter that needs to get sorted. And he was actually here this morning meeting with Margaret to talk about that. I came in, and Jarrett, another trustee, came in, and Mr. Anderson, a planning board member, was there too this morning, and maybe he can, give his thoughts. But I want you to know that as a HOA, we are working really hard and as quickly as we can to get the application in. We have the application that the developer submitted last year. No surprises, there are some deficiencies, so we're going to need to fill in the gaps. We have the last application you accepted for a street, and I feel like the attorneys we talk to, they do this routinely. So I think engaging with the professionals and our willingness to roll up our sleeves and work on this and partner with the town, I think we have enough time to get this ready for town meeting, and would respectfully request that you put the placeholder on the warrant. And my neighbors might want to also say some words, but that's how I wanted to frame it. Thank you.
So, thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of you for actually coming together and working constructively with the town. I did hear about the meeting today, and I think I take that as a very positive sign. Appreciate the efforts that you're taking to actually move this to its conclusion. I think it's been a headache for all of you, the town, everybody. It would be great to put this to bed. I would like to ask David if he has comments to make.
Thank you all. David Anderson, 176 Main Street, planning board member, but obviously I don't speak on behalf of the planning board. As a group, I voted against conditional approval last Thursday because I didn't really understand what that meant. I didn't know how we could vote to approve or not approve something that wasn't before us. But I also wasn't aware until the middle of the meeting that the affordable housing issue appears to be on the right track, which is a huge relief. I also did some soul searching on this one, and I think we have to acknowledge that these 16 units are our neighbors. It is not the developer. We need to be sensitive to the fact that these are our neighbors. And they've suffered a lot from this developer, as this town has. I would strongly encourage the select board. This is a very organized group, and they have a very good shot of pulling the papers together into very good shape before the town meeting. I think we should give them the chance. What I told them at the meeting today is, I'm going to come here and I'm going to say what I've already said, which I was encourage you all to do what is necessary to plan to put this on the warrant at the annual town meeting. But what I said to them, and I'll say here, the planning board will ensure that this is compliant. And if it is not, we will not vote to recommend it. And that is because the town has suffered from this development and this developer, and somebody's got to make sure that this is in shape before we take on the liability of the town. But if there's any chance that we can do this for our neighbors, I strongly encourage that we do that. I'm also very excited to hear that you're going to meet an executive session on the 18th of February to discuss with the town council, I believe, an executive session about potential remedies against this developer, which has besmirched the profession of developers in this town as we talk about other potential development futures in this town. So thank you all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
That's actually what I was hoping to hear. So unless I'm misunderstanding something, it sounds to me like it's a low risk to place this on the warrant as a placeholder, given the understanding that everything needs to be compliant in order for this to actually go through, and it cannot happen at the last minute if that's what needs to happen. But I think to give it a chance of success, from what I've heard, I would support placing it on the warrant.
I agree. Steve and Joe, you all right with that?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, of course.
I agree as well. I think there are unique circumstances here that would justify doing this, even though it may be, slightly out of the ordinary from the sequence of events. I don't think that should stand in the way of coming up with what seems to be at least potentially an elegant solution to a lot of these problems that have been discussed. And I also want to join my colleagues in commending the Spring Hill owners for your collaboration, your perseverance on this, and your cooperation with the various town departments and boards. So I too would support putting it on the warrant as a placeholder.
So timeline then, we can put in as a placeholder. We've got meetings the 18th of this month and the 4th of March, and that's about the time we've got to go to print. So if we even have the placeholder, we really don't need to make a final decision until the 18th of March select board meeting, which gives the HOA some time, and we'll just have to run down to the end, hopefully not near the end, to get the answers and have an answer just last minute. It's in there or it's not on the 18th of March.
Okay. Nope. Discussion on request to purchase town-owned land, parcel ID map 7, lot 53.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order. Given that item J is also about Spring Hill, would it be appropriate to take that out of order and deal with that next?
Sure. Discussion and potential vote to allow the Department of Public Works to conduct snow and ice removal on the ways located within the Spring Hill subdivision.
I don't know whether any of the residents who are here, sorry, I know Steve will say something too, but before we vote on it, probably would also be worth hearing from any residents who have any questions or particular requests beyond the basic motion that we may vote on, which is to authorize the DPW to plow this private way.
Go ahead.
One question, perhaps to Margaret or to Steve. Did we determine, and I heard tonight that the actual deeds provide ownership of the street to the mid-lane, to the individual owners?
So if I can approach again. So, we've been talking with a couple attorneys, right, who do this every day, and one of them has looked at our deeds, and it does say that the way these deeds were written, that it appears each individual homeowner owns the land to the center lane of the road, and under the derelict fee statute, which I've learned about, that means that each of us own, to the midway point. And so my understanding is that, the lawyer we hire is gonna have to work with the town lawyer to just make sure the technical acceptance and conveyance, which could potentially be a taking rather than a conveyance, is done once the vote to accept is successful, hopefully. Does that respond to your question?
Yes, because my only concern was our authorization to plow, whether it was being given to a developer or to the homeowners. So I think we're covered that the plowing allowance is going to the homeowners.
Steve?
Steve, we talked about this morning. Rich and the GPW are also.
Honestly, as far as, who owns the halfway, I'm unsure if that matters. I didn't have that specific discussion with council. Although I think in either case, regardless of the owner, it appears the select board has the authority to expend taxpayer funds for snow and ice removal of a private way, as long as this way remains open to the public use. So the residents at Spring Hill have to be, and I believe they are, accepting of the fact that it is open to public use, meaning that cars could drive up and down their road as any other public way in the town of Wenham. Additionally, I added in the motion that a reason that it can be maintained and removal of snow and ice is that it meets Massachusetts Building Code regulations for public way building construction, which according to council and discussions with Rich, would prevent ways from coming forward looking for the same relief. That this road is different in that it is, was always intended to be a public way. That this is kind of a blip in the process where the developer abandoned owners, and that the way is built to public specs. It was always intended to be a public way. It's the depth of the asphalt and width and safety and access and egress is all meets the requirements, and that it can be safely traveled by the public, and that the town can expend the taxpayer funds in the interim to remove snow and ice.
Ready for a motion then?
Sure.
I move to allow the Department of Public Works to conduct snow and ice removal on the ways located within the Spring Hill subdivision under General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6C, provided that the way remains open to the public use and meets Massachusetts Building Code regulations for public way building construction.
Second.
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask just one follow-on question?
Sure.
Sorry. Mark McGee, 5 Spring Hill Farm Road. In terms of the process, who can we currently have somebody plowing the roads. Who can we work with to basically understand when that takes effect? Just in case in the interim a snowstorm happens and we didn't fully.
Steve?
Yeah, if you want to designate someone to contact me tomorrow. I think we're supposed to be getting snow on Thursday. And I know the DPW is, the DPW director is on board and just waiting for the word. So, we can take care of it. But if it would be helpful if I had a contact.
Yeah, I'll reach out. I'll be your contact and I'll reach out after the meeting.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
All right, so discussion on request to purchase town-owned land, parcel ID map 7, lot 53.
Okay. That's me. Hi, I'm Meg Brandwine. I'm at 123 Pleasant Street in Wenham. I had written a letter to the board just about a week or two ago. My husband and I purchased 123 Pleasant Street a little over a year ago. We've been working with the town through the ZBA and Conservation Commission. Currently on the property, there is an old 1920s one-bedroom camp type of property. We are in the process of trying to, again, go through ZBA, Conservation Commission to take this one-bedroom house and make it a new one-bedroom house. Ideally, we are trying to make it so that it is less non-conforming, because the way the property stands right now, the building is touching our neighbor's property. So we've been going through some motions to try and get it off the property line, make it less non-conforming, making it the same footprint of the current house. So it's about 16 feet wide, 40 feet long. In doing so, we've run into some issues as far as the land goes, as far as neighbors go, setbacks, things like that. And in doing so, we've come up with a possible solution. We tried to get the house off the property line. In doing so, that puts us onto the next lot, which is the lot 53 here, which is the adjacent one for the septic system, not for the house itself. So we went to Steve, we went to the town and kind of asked, okay, is there any way we can have an easement onto this property to put the septic system there, which we already have approved by the Board of Health? And unfortunately, we could not. So then we found out, okay, this is, again, town-owned land, and how can we go about this process of having the town relinquish the land so that possibly we could purchase it with, again, that idea of same building that we have already in for ZBA, put that there. We're not looking to build a McMansion of sorts, just that same piece of property, just giving us a bit more space, making sure that we treat the land right, we get off our neighbors a little bit more. Yeah, so that's the piece right there.
So which one are you 5400?
We are at 54, yep. So we're at this
Yep.
one right.
Yep, got it. Yes, Gary?
So I think one of the issues also here is talking to the treasurer that the state has promulgated new law concerning properties that were taken for back taxes, and the proceeds to any such sale, I guess, are in question right now as to how far that law is retroactive. So I know Belinda is working on that, but it's another complicated issue. So I'm not sure we actually know how today we can dispose of the property until we get further word from Belinda. Probably goes to auction, but I guess it may not happen as quick as we would like.
I think Belinda is here. She may have some information.
Yeah, I could speak.
I did mention to May it would be tough to get our ducks in a row before town meeting. It likely would require town meeting vote.
So the land was taken back in the late 70s by the process of land of low value at the time. So that's a totally different process than foreclosing it in land court. So my first concern is that I have to establish that we took it properly at that time. And then the second concern is that there is a process to dispose of that type of land after the fact. It's all legally outlined. So those are my two first concerns. And I reached out to our tax title attorney. He is not familiar with this process, so I have reached out to a second tax attorney, title attorney that I have worked with in the past, and they're very well versed on this. I haven't spoken to them yet. I've reached out to see if they'll take us on as a client for this one item to make sure we're doing it properly. And then finally, my third concern is that what Gary spoke about, the law changed in November 1st of this year, of 24, about disposal of the funds that are established, any anything that we sell that property for. There right now, land court isn't even letting us foreclose on properties that we took through land court until they do make this determination. So the state's up in the air about how they feel about this new law and how it will go retroactively. So it's a little bit complicated. It's going to take me some time to figure out.
Okay. How about it?
I mean, on the face of it, it sounded like a great solution without knowing all of this complication. But it sounds like it may still be possible. It's just
It just has to follow the law. And, you know, even the first two steps, we can follow the law, but the third step with the state being up in the air about some things, I have to get some really good legal advice about that.
Thank you, Belinda. So
are we still, I guess that makes complete sense to me that we have more fact finding to do.
sorry, could you just come back to the microphone so you can be heard?
So it makes complete sense that we have more fact finding to do. I sort of knew that coming into this. And I know that, like, we'll go through whatever process. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. My understanding is that in order to even relinquish the lot, though, it would have to go to town meeting. Is that the way it's established? Because I know that different towns have different ways of sort of releasing the lot in and of itself. And is that something that we know how that happens?
No, I don't know that right now. I'm pretty sure they'll eventually.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be able to be like directly sold to a new.
Sure. Yes.
So,
yes.
You know, but in terms of the town's policy, in terms of who decides to relinquish the lot, I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So it sounds like I'm before you today asking for this, but we're not really sure how this works yet.
That is what it sounds
okay.
like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Well, I'm pretty sure that if this ultimately, a land low value taking would be town meeting approval, but you know, and I think what Belinda highlighted is that, you know, we're going to have to make sure we took it appropriately. We have to make sure we have clean title.
Sure.
We start to kind of put our ducks in a row before we even figure out what the new law changes as far as, you know, what proceeds go to the prior owner, and if you're using current market value, do we make them whole off current market value or the value that it was in, you know, 1973? You know, so I think the board is open to, you know, working through this process, but I don't believe, you know, in any way would be ready, at least at this town meeting, to bring it forward. It would have to be a future town meeting.
Okay.
Well, we're setting one up for
June.
June.
Yeah.
We'll put you on first.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's fine.
All righty. So, should we keep going?
We should.
Discussion and potential vote to select articles that will be included in the 2025 April annual town meeting. Do we have a motion?
I don't know if anyone did any reading here over the week. We have quite a few. I believe it's like 35 if you're to include all the routine articles plus the requested articles of the board to sponsor. So, you know, obviously it's the board's meeting, so I'll leave it up to you to decide how long you want the meeting and how many articles you want to include. But we tried to, starting on page 12, you know, not build out the legal language for the articles themselves, but the commentary, which I believe is more important, you know, to actually explain what the article is looking to achieve, and you know, for the board to use to make their decision. The motion, just like prior years, you move to include, and then you list the articles you'd like to include prior to finalizing the motion.
Has anything changed? We added one.
Yeah, nothing changed from Wednesday when I circulated it on Wednesday.
I'm not sure if we.
So
I did take a look at this, and maybe my memory's going, but I don't know that we've had a discussion yet as a board about the merits of
each warrant, of each article.
Have we?
No, we haven't.
We have not.
So to me, it would be worth, and some of them may be no-brainers, but to me, it would be worth at least reviewing them and maybe pausing on any that anybody has questions about, which I have some on some of them.
Well, I think we also need to be conscious of the length of the meeting, and given that the school vote is going to be on the warrant, which is likely to take, probably a good amount of time for people to debate. I do think we need to whittle this list down to things that are a little more essential and sort of decide what can wait. So I think that's the gist of the discussion.
Like reinstating the late fee for dog registration? Delay that?
You tell Diane.
But yes, that's the idea.
Right.
Well, I think if you want it to be effective, you might want to make it more than $10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Steve, just a question.
Yes.
Could you cut this down to what's most important, please?
Well, I think we need to have some discussion of that.
Well, I just thought he might
Like right
opine.
now. Well, I mean, he can certainly opine, but I think we need to also opine.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Can we work
So-
backwards? Like, what is the absolute necessary?
Yeah.
Like, instead of
right.
saying, let's figure out what we're gonna get rid of, what can't we get rid of?
Well,
So,
that's
I guess
that's exactly what I was asking.
Well, I can tell you what you can't get rid of. How about that?
right, that's what I'd like to know.
You can't get rid of anything from page 1 through 11.
Right.
And you can't get rid of, Michelle, if you could scroll down a little. You keep going. Keep going. All right, stop there. You can't get rid of Article 14. Article 16. And that is it.
What about 10, the ADU? Is there a deadline on the ADU rezoning?
Yeah, well, you don't. And so the planning board has met, they've had their public hearing, and I believe they're recommending to the board to place it on the warrant. However, you don't have to put it on the warrant.
You mean this time? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Thank you. The state changed the ADU law, and it came into effect the other day, February 2nd or whatever, just the other day. So we are already required to follow that law that allows ADUs by right. The reason the planning board is putting this article forward now is so that we can take away the current law the bylaw that we have that allows for ADUs by special permit and adopt this by right ADU bylaw, which I think the state is saying we have to do. It's already, I think if someone would have come in this week for a by right ADU, once the state says, yeah, I don't think we can deny that ADU by right.
So do we need to go to the town meeting?
Yes, it does, so that we can change our bylaw, so that we can put some parameters around it.
Yeah.
So the state guidelines have allowed us to put parameters around the by right ADU. So we've done that in this.
The question is, do you have to, or is it smart to? I think that's the discussion. It would smart to
Yeah.
build in some protections, because now people can do it by right.
Yeah.
But to build in some protections. I think the smart thing would be, in my opinion, is to have it. But, we're just going to, it was, absolutely required to keep the town moving forward.
No.
It would just be the collective bargaining agreements, accepting funding, and the debt exclusion for the new school. Because in theory, we don't even have to do that either, but.
Okay, I see what you
But
mean.
yeah, if I recommending, if you ask my opinion, I would recommend that you do move forward with all the planning board recommendations, which is, I believe, 3 articles, one of which is a bylaw.
Yeah, I should think that the ADU needs to get formalized, in that right now we're kind of in limbo, that we might have people come in and try to apply under the old versus the new, and I can see legal entanglements there, so that if we get the new ADU and what, stormwater, and there's one other?
Floodplain.
Yeah, so I think those can go through pretty quick and would not use up much town meeting time. So I think we'd like to cooperate with the planning board and get those done.
So it sounds like if we're keeping a tally so far, it sounds like there's perhaps a consensus that we would definitely want to include numbers 10, 14, and 16.
I want to push hard for keeping 17.
I think, Steve, did we get any feedback from town council as to whether we could put limitations on the timeline or the period that we would fund the military leave?
You know, you either adopt the law or you don't.
Right.
So if you wanted to, if the law was, too lenient, as far as a potential financial liability or commitment, then the way to do it would be to govern it within the collective bargaining units or the town personnel bylaws.
Are you looking to increase?
To give that benefit in a way that the board can customize.
Yeah, so I think this one may need some more work to be done, and that's my opinion.
Why?
Because if you adopt the state law as is, it provides kind of an open-end financial liability for the town, given that the law was, as I read it, drafted for a period of time when reservists or guard folks were coming up for, your 2 weeks summer, or, a day or two of training here and there, whereas certainly since 9/11 and more recently, you see reservists coming on active duty for periods of 2 or 3 years, which, makes quite a financial liability on the town to plus up the difference if it occurs in pay for that given period of time, knowing that that individual would also create a vacancy that would be backfilled. So I'm just saying,
But we only have one.
well, right now, yes, but, you're making a bylaw to create this situation, and if you have the bylaw open-ended, it may create a place where, people come to get the job here so that they can go on leave and collect the money. So I'm just saying that I think if there's any to drop off the list, here's an easy one.
I will respectfully disagree with you. I like the idea of where it is from a finance perspective. I don't think that they're paid enough. So I think that the understanding of the difference between what their military pay is to what they were making within the town, I don't know how. I mean, we currently only have one person. I mean, I can understand
But,
the idea
the
that-
question is, it's the difference between pound pay and basic military pay that the town would have to make up, which is not an income consequential amount of money if you had a senior town employee depart that's making over $100,000, and military pay might have a lower rank, and so you're talking, 50,000 for times 3 years, as well as having to backfill that position. So I'm just saying, I'm certainly as a veteran been forward, and I brought this forward, but I'm just saying that this one needs a lot more consideration as to the financial impact.
What do you think, Ben?
Well, I think I heard Gary and or Steve say that that we could craft our own.
Well, that's right. So we
not adopt the state standard.
So, but that would also incur some time that we need, because we're going to have to part the union negotiations.
Right. So we certainly wouldn't be able to do that in time for this upcoming annual town meeting, but there is that option of offering the benefit, but perhaps putting some caps and some limits around it to avoid the scenario that Gary's outlined.
And to do it under a town bylaw rather than adoption of the state rules.
Well, the personnel bylaws and the union contracts do not need town meeting approval. The select board can operate under their authority.
Okay, so do we think we have the list of what we need to have on?
I'm going to argue for one more, and that's the community choice aggregation, which I feel is important to have on the warrant this year so that we're not delayed from even starting the process for another entire year.
What is it?
I guess
Which number is it?
Number 21.
number 21, it's on the screen.
Okay.
Community aggregation of electrical load. So to even pursue this, we need town meeting approval. So once town meeting approves is when the work actually begins of trying to enter into this agreement by aggregating the purchase of energy and thereby hopefully lowering the cost of electricity for the town. Right, so I think it's something that benefits the entire town, which I think is important to try to do the things that benefit the most people. I wonder, however, if this might be appropriate on the special town meeting warrant with the 3A question. I don't know if there's anything that precludes that, but I would like to see that this start this year so that we can actually get the process underway next year.
Peter?
Yep.
Yeah, certainly on this aggregation, the state had essentially temporarily closed this program for years. And now that it's open, I think it would behoove us to get in line as soon as we can. So at least get the town meeting approval to get the whole process going.
So do you want to do the regular or special?
Is there any, sorry, go ahead.
So,
I think it'd be nice to have some good news.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, is there any reason this should be on one or the other of the warrants?
No, I think it'd make a lot of people happy if you had it on this in April.
Well, I think that'd be good to make people happy, just saying.
Doesn't make a difference to me though, from a process standpoint, whatever preferences.
I mean, who's gonna like say no?
Hopefully not.
So this ought to fly right through. So we'll do it in April?
Sounds good.
So the question then is, all these others from dog licenses and stipends and so forth, are we anticipating putting them on the special town meeting, Steve, or roll them further back? Or what's the board think?
I think we should do them at the special and start with the non-3A stuff.
I mean, I do think that, if you were, if I had to, I do think creation of revolving funds would be important. The zoning articles would be important to include. So including the accessory dwelling units, floodplain overlay, stormwater management. And then, is Jeff in the room?
Yes.
Yes.
I know he knows more about it than I do, but revolving funds are, especially when we're questioning, financial impact on the town. Not that this would help us calculate it going forward, but to be able to look back and actually know how much it costs to run an ambulance business out of the town. It is important for the bookkeeping. So it's something that we don't have. It kind of all the revenue kind of comes and goes, and expenses kind of flows in and out of the general fund with no real bookkeeping. So I think a revolving fund would be smart.
Perhaps the revolving fund would go better at the regular town meeting, given that you have the budget articles, the transfer articles, and so forth, and that we get all the financial stuff done in the first 1 or 12, because I'm not sure it would be clear to suddenly this comes up as a standalone at a special. Right.
Yeah, we don't want to load the special up too much, or really at all, if we can avoid it. And I think several of these, at least in my experience at annual town meetings, they're quickies, they're no-brainers. They're not going to take much time or generate much controversy. So it sounds like 6. Well, we haven't talked about 6, but I think that 6, adoption of the prudent investor language, is something that will sail through once it's explained why we're doing it, which that will probably fall on you. Have to do, but I mean, I don't think there's going to be any controversy around that.
No, I mean, the only thing I would tell you is surprisingly revolving funds can get, not contentious, but people get confused and aren't sure, what money's going in there and how it can be spent. And I know we've had a couple in the past in my town that have taken much longer to push through than I thought. So I think they're important to be on there, but I would caution you that they can sort of go off the rails for unknown reasons.
For 7, yeah.
Which is why you're going to be at town meeting.
What's that?
Which is why you're going to be at town meeting.
Oh, no, not this year.
I think it behooves us to put a number of these off until next year, as to not clutter too much the special town meeting, that maybe there's a couple of other articles. Maybe the CPC change, which is fairly innocuous, could be at the special town meeting, but I think a handful at the special, the critical or crucial ones at the annual, and then hold some of the others until next year.
What about number 8? Because that's a cleanup. It's a financial cleanup, scholarship and education funds, which again, I think would probably be just Jeff's you seeming to indicate maybe it's not a priority.
I just don't know. I mean, I think you could have people say, those are really good causes, we should keep those in place, and you could have a debate over it. And I don't think it's essential. They're pretty small funds. That's part of the reason you want to unwind them. But at the same time, if it stays around for a year, it's not going to change things dramatically.
Right.
So if you were going to push one off, that might be one I would push off.
Okay. What about the HVAC 15? Is that critical now?
We don't, 15?
Yeah, 1-5.
15, we don't need it anymore because the CPC, well, we're putting if the grant falls through, we have, and you'll see later tonight, we're proposing it through the capital. So you can eliminate 15. Here's the long way of saying you can eliminate 15.
Steve, did you want to leave it separate just in the off chance we wanted to do it as debt or anything like that? I mean, I don't think we're going to recommend that, but it's possible it could be looked at a different way than the other capital, since it's, we're looking at spending over $1 million in capital, $1.2 million in capital, but 500,000 of it is that HVAC. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess we could leave it, I hate to use the word placeholder, but, if we could buy ourselves another 3 weeks, and hopefully, we know about the grant process. That's really what we're waiting on from what we've heard, is the state's kind of moving slow intentionally with these bigger grants.
Okay.
So we want to find out one way or the other. Basically, it's just a fail-safe to ensure we have a funding mechanism at town hall, whether it be free cash or some sort of short-term borrowing.
Okay.
15, I guess leave 15 on there with the possibility of taking it off, in the next 3 weeks.
And then if I may, 24 to me, which adopts a statute which allows for cost of living increases on the tax exemptions available to, among other people, veterans, which if the consensus of the board is that we're going to hold off on the other veterans article for now, 17, which I know, Karen, you were uncomfortable with, maybe leaving off, but if the board votes to leave 17 off, maybe we should keep 24 on, given that also, to me anyway, would engender very little controversy and probably very little time.
Yeah, I mean, it's $90 out of the 40 million, so that should go through okay, I hope.
So do we have the definitive list?
I think we have a list, which I've made some notes on. I can prepare a motion.
Do we have enough time to put 17 on the June one? I'd hate to have an entire year go by. So I can concede with getting rid of it for April, but to put it on June.
17?
It's the veterans pay.
Yes, I think by then we should have full KP Law assessment as well as financial. Build our own bylaw, right? We can do that by June?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
There's a kit for that.
Yes. An app, we need an app.
There we go. So I'll move that the following so-called potential articles that are in our draft warrant at tonight's meeting be put on the town meeting warrant for the annual town meeting in 2025. Article 6, adoption of prudent investor language. Article 7, creation of revolving fund. Article 10, accessory dwelling units. Article 11, floodplain overlay district. Article 12, stormwater management. Article 14, debt exclusion for a new school. Article 15, as a placeholder article, adding second funding source for capital as fail-safe for funding town hall GO-HVAC should CPC or grant fund fall through. Article 16, to accept and fund police, fire, and DPW admin collective bargaining agreements. Article 18, to accept Spring Hill subdivision way as a public way as a placeholder article. Article 21, community aggregation of electrical land. And Article 24, pertaining to the adoption of Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I.
That was a motion, I'll second. Was that a motion?
It was a motion.
Yes, I'll second.
And then you,
Wait, now, I'm just confused. I thought we said we don't need 15? Or did you say?
Put it as
we're gonna keep it just
Okay.
like as just in case. So we're hoping to hear from the grant by the end of the month.
Want to turn the page and do the additionally?
Sure you want to tell Diane you don't want to file?
And so if you want, you can maybe take that motion and then you can do a second motion to, you gotta list the routine
Okay, so we have
articles that you'd like to.
motion and a second, right? Okay, ready to vote?
Wait,
Are you
Steve's no, Steve was trying to say something. We did just list the articles, right, Steve? So we're good?
Yeah, you also need to list the first pages, excuse me, the titles of each article to pages 1 through 11.
Oh, Ben, the first. Yeah.
And so, and the articles that I just read for that motion are in my somewhat scattered notes, so I hope this has someone else.
Yeah, I'm taking notes here. I'm highlighting them green as we go.
Okay.
Okay, well, I got it up here, so if you want.
Sure.
So we have,
We're going to move it here.
yeah, so also a move to place on the warrant article annual operating budget appropriation, town and schools. Use of free cash and other available funds to fund fiscal year 2026 capital improvement program. Funding of stabilization fund. Funding of OPEB trust fund. Prior year bills. Cemetery and other trust funds. Cemetery sale of lots transfer. Transfer from water operating budget to water capital reserve fund. Roadwork Chapter 90 funding. CPA reservations and appropriations. And election of officers. To be an addendum to Ben's motion.
Second?
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Jerry, yes.
All right, and then can we have a separate motion on the citizens petition, please?
Wait, hold on a minute. I don't understand what we're doing with that.
On the citizens petition?
Yeah.
Maybe Steve can explain it, but I think under our bylaws, if the requisite number of certified signatures are submitted with a citizen's petition, I don't think we have any discretion to put it on the warrant.
That's correct.
Yeah, you have to, if the warrant's open, you guys have to put it on.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I was confused. Are there the sufficient number of signatures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't look like that many. That's all you need?
10.
10?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they had a lot
Okay.
more, I think.
That's all I wanted to know.
So you want to, we need a motion?
Oh.
I'll do, you want it, Dee?
Do you need a motion?
Yes,
We do.
because you're adding it to the warrant.
On the list, it should be on your warrant, your motion list, if you want to read it.
I move to include the citizens petition article titled "No School Consolidation," exactly as written, received in the town clerk's office on February 3rd, 2025, at 3:15 p.m. from Will Hanson, 51 Fairfield Drive, Wenham.
Second.
Ready to vote? Peter says yes.
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right. Discussion and potential vote to close the April 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
I'll move to close the April 5th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Ready to vote? Peter, yes.
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes. So Steve, the last time we can, as a practical matter, open and close the warrant is our 18 March Select Board meeting.
February, March.
Because it all goes to print.
Yes, yeah, so so you can open it and close it on the 18th, but the changes you make on the 18th will not be reflective on the copies that folks receive in their mailbox that will already have been mailed out.
So we really ought to do final if there's any changes by the 4th.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, you want to try, in my opinion, you want to try to get as much done and squared away so it's reflective on the mailing. But it's really not uncommon in Wenham as well that changes inevitably come up and you have to make some, you have to make some calls at the last minute and make some changes.
Steve, do we have any idea how many people had approached the former town clerk asking about citizens petitions? Because the person who put the petition in now was told that it was an end of February deadline. So my concern is that this one's fine and it's in the system and going to be part of the warrant, but were there other people who were given incorrect information that we need to reach out to and potentially put on the warrant?
I don't have that answer. Based on my conversation with Diane, this is the only one that she was contacted by, but I don't have that answer. I can touch base with her tomorrow.
Well, and Diane's been the town clerk for, what, 4 or 5 months or something?
Yeah, so unfortunately, they had gone with our previous town clerk, who told them that paperwork for all citizens petitions didn't have to be in until the last week of February in order to make the printing.
I see.
But that's not a town responsibility. If a private citizen goes to another private citizen for information, then...
No, it was while they were in office.
All right, well, that was my point. I kind of...
While in office?
Yeah.
No, so they approached, they came into...
Right, but what I'm saying is that I'd be surprised if there was anybody contemplating a citizen's petition for this upcoming town meeting way back in... No,
so it actually happened with this one. And so they called, Diane can work it out, but it's my understanding, they went to Diane last week, and she said, no, it's due on Monday. And so they scrambled all weekend to be able to get these these signatures.
So they were planning that back in the fall or whenever.
Yeah. If you look at the signatures, you can
they waited.
kind of take
They waited a while, but
They did wait a while. However,
keeping us all in suspense.
then it got into panic mode a little bit
I see.
because then they were rushed and Diane said, no, it's not. You have until Monday. And so all of them, if you actually take a look at them, they're not on one form. Each form is individually done.
I didn't see that. Yeah, I didn't see
And the way they
date,
did
so.
it is because they then emailed it out to people in order to be able to
okay.
get those signatures because they were panicked they weren't going to be able to make it.
I see.
So my concern is that, understanding it's been a while, but are there other people who are potentially going to turn around and say, this is the information that was given to me?
Yeah. Well, I guess Steve will look. I mean, I'd be surprised if that were the case, just given the timing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this one was a little bit of an unusual sequence.
All right, so can we move to K? Discussion with the finance director and town administrator on fiscal year 26 capital requests. These represent all requests received for funding in fiscal year 2026, and the discussion will focus on available funds and prioritizing projects for town meeting approval. What you got?
I'm gonna pull that up, Michelle, if you haven't already. As we won't go through the whole presentation tonight. There's it was pretty straightforward. It was right around, not including the town hall HVAC. We're proposing about $800,000 in capital expenditures to be funded by free cash, which is pretty much what Wenham does every year. The last few years, we've tried to stick to $800,000 mark. We're just doing general maintenance. I guess the big ticket items are the chief is looking to do some significant restoration to the ladder truck of $150,000. We have the last year of our trackless lease payment of $31,000, so that will be falling off next year. We are in line to get an incentive on an electric mower. So instead of replacing our ride-on electric mower that the DPW uses to maintain the fields and town hall lawn, with another gas one, we're going to try out an electric ride-on this time. And another relatively big ticket item that we have on there is the tasers for the police department. It's a leasing agreement. It's a 5-year leasing agreement at about $16,000 a year. But the tasers that they have now are past their useful life to the point, they're always malfunctioning and you can't buy replacement parts for them. It's really time to have them updated. And this is when there'll be no vote asked to tonight. We'll circulate this entire PowerPoint for the board to review. When we come back with the FinCom, we're waiting on the FinCom's comments so that the select board can hear those comments, if any, before asked to finalize the capital. But wanted to get this in front of you in case you had any initial questions or wanted to have some discussion. Feel free, or if not, this will be coming back to you at the next meeting.
So maybe for Jeff, a quick question. So the capital budget is using how much of the total free cash?
So if, as proposed with the $500,000 for the HVAC, we have $2,071,000 as our certified free cash. So, it's using, essentially 60%. I mean, we'll have roughly $700,000 left or so if we use the full 500.
So we're still reserving the $250 for emergency fund, and then
$250 for emergency fund, just in the budget. I know we have a reserve for potential contracts and
Right.
things like that. That's in about that neighborhood, and that's built into the actual budget itself.
Yep.
It's not free
as is
cash.
OPEB and the
Yeah, and
stabilization.
as of right now, the Finance Committee may evaluate, if you recall, last year, we appropriated quite a bit of money into an additional OPEB contribution and some large stabilization contributions. The thought being there that we're trying to sort of meet some benchmarks on those things. As our budget grows, those benchmarks grow. So it could be that the FinCom votes on wanting to move a little bit of money into stabilization just to stay on track. As of right now, I don't envision a big contribution to OPEB like we made last year. We made some pretty big strides last year. I think knowing, at least from my perspective, knowing the next couple of years are going to be hard, I would probably recommend that they keep some free cash on the sidelines because it may be needed to help us kind of weather the next 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I think, you know, it'd be great if we didn't need to use the $500,000, but it's nice that we have the ability to take that on. One point I would make, because it's sort of the biggest item on the list here, the $150,000 for the ladder truck, that's a full refurbish. It's going to rebuild the engine. It's going to rebuild the front axle. It's going to bring the entire vehicle up to sort of all of the current fire equipment standards. And just to give you a point of reference, Essex just bought a ladder truck, another 75-foot ladder truck for about $1.2 million. Manchester bought theirs for, I think, $1.6 million or $1.8 million. So $150,000 investment to keep this going, as opposed to going out and buying another ladder truck new, is sort of a no-brainer there. And you know, and one of the FinCom folks asked if we were if this was a case of us deferring maintenance and putting into the capital now. And you know, I said to him, I would probably argue it proves that we've done a good job of doing maintenance, that we have a vehicle that's in good enough shape that it's just a rebuild is enough to keep it going for 10 more years and not, you know, having to get a new ladder truck there. And on the tasers, Steve mentioned those. That's a relatively big ticket item in that it's a 5-year lease payment there. That also covers the maintenance on the units as well. So it's not just payment for it. It's also the maintenance plan for these for the next 5 years. And I know we went through a similar issue in Essex where the older tasers were just really problematic as the parts are no longer available. They're failing constantly. So this one probably makes a lot of sense. And I see a good head shake over there in the corner. I'm trying to think if there's anything other really kind of major there. I mean, I think that hits most of them. I mean, you'll notice road work, Chapter 90 supplement, we in the past have done more in the range of $100,000. The last year and this year we have knocked that down to about $50,000. The reason behind that is that in the last couple of years the so-called millionaire's tax has been implemented, and that money flows through to communities, specifically towards schools and also road improvements. So Rich has been able to dial back this request because he has other funds available. In talking to him today, maybe we will bump that back up to the 100 range, moving forward. But for now, we've basically, not spent $100,000 over the last 2 budget cycles because of that fair share tax revenue. Yeah, what else? And 2 of the bigger ticket items are the 2 land use ones there, the master plan implementation, downtown vibrancy plan. Kate could speak to those if you have any questions, but clearly those are directly related to the master plan and the implementation of that plan, so important to a lot of folks in this room, I think.
Great. Any questions, anybody? That was really well done, Jeff. Thank you. Old business or any new business? Is anybody watching besides Steve?
I'm the sole survivor. No, Pat Purdy's in with me and Pat.
Okay.
We're ready?
Yep.
How about schedule? Quick, right? Always the hard one, but got to get it set.
Gary?
What's that, February 18th? Our next meeting is February 8th.
Do we have an executive meeting coming up?
That is good point, Carrie. That if the board is okay with that, Robin Stein is free, or her schedule is free to come in for executive session as requested last time to talk about potential litigation with Spring Hill subdeveloper. Although it seems like some movement has been made, but I don't know if you want to leave that on the calendar and at least have the discussion.
June has started like 6
Yeah,
before our next meeting.
Date and time? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, might want to give it an hour. I don't know how many questions that you're going to have. Half hour goes pretty, especially when you invite somebody
Is that
in.
an issue for you too?
Could I make a suggestion that we don't hold it on the 18th, only because, I was the person who proposed holding it in the first place, but I don't think it has to happen on the 18th. And since the time that we discussed or voted last time, 2 weeks ago, to put it on an executive session, there has been some progress made. When I listened into the planning board meeting, there's a Habitat for Humanity representative there who went over some of that. And I think as a board, we probably should be briefed and updated at an appropriate time about exactly where it stands before we meet with council to discuss the matter.
Makes sense to me. Everyone else?
So I would say hold. I think we voted 2 weeks ago to hold one, but we didn't say when. And it seems like it might be prudent to get more information before we schedule it.
Okay.
We ready?
Yep.
Okay, move to adjourn, 8:37.
Second.
And I would just say that our next meeting is February 18th at 6:30 p.m. And I am voting yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.